Hi, I'm Keris and today I'm going to show you how to make this gown. It's just a simple front and then at the back it's open with ties that I've done with bias binding. It's just from a scrubs top adapted pattern. I'm going to show you how to make it. Okay, so I've adapted the Sew Me Something scrubs top. This is the back piece that I've got. You can see it's well used, I've already ripped it. I'm going to show you how to add on these side sections so that you can make it into a gown pattern. So the first thing I did was I added on 4 centimetres here to the sleeve. I literally stuck a bit of paper underneath. You can see where I've taped it on. Measured 4 centimetres, drew it on. Then what I've done here is I've added on 7 centimetres to make the back flap where the two ties overlap. So I've added on 7 centimetres all the way down. And to the length, I've added on 55 centimetres. So just from the bottom there, you can see where I've taped it. And then I've literally just stuck 55 centimetres on. Now I've used lined paper because that's all I had. This is for the back. So the back is like this with the added sleeve and the side bit here and this length. And this would be cut in 2 pieces. Okay, so I'm not going to cut this on the fold. I'm going to cut it in 2 pieces. Okay, so 2 of these. Then for the front, same measurements again, but don't put on the 7 centimetres. So, okay, so this is now the front piece, and as you can see, there's this symbol here. The line's like this with the 2 arrows, and that means the fold. So I'm going to put this piece of fabric, this piece of pattern, on the fold of the fabric, make sure the fold is here, and cut it out once, and then when I open this out, it will be a whole front. Okay. Now the first one of these I made with this back neckline that was given to me in the pattern. This is a medium size I've cut out, but actually this is too tight to now be a front. So what I need to do is make this deeper. So I'm literally just going to measure one and a half centimetres from the top there, make a mark, and then I'm going to curve it round to here, the same as that bit. So I'm just going to literally draw that by hand, curve it around like that. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this section out, and that's going to be my new neckline. Now, obviously, for the back, which is this, got this extended bit, this needs to be extended across here. Okay, so I'm going to cut that whole section out. Okay, this is my adapted back piece. As you can see, I've lowered the neck a little piece. Now, I'm going to lay this down. This is a lovely duvet cover. It's double layers because I haven't opened it up yet. I'm literally going to pin this down and cut it out. Okay, now we need to cut out the front of this gown. Now the front, if you remember, I'm going to tuck under that 7 centimetres that we added on. And this symbol here means to put on the fold. So I've folded the fabric over, see the edge of it here. Okay, so I'm actually going to spin this round so it's easier. I'm going to line up this line with the fold of the fabric. I'm going to pin it down and cut it out. Okay, so this is the opened out front of your gown. Okay, I'm just laying it on the table because what I'm going to do first was I'm going to sew the shoulder seams and the side seams. These are my 2 back pieces. Now you want right sides together, so just find out which is the right side. This one is brighter than this one, so I know this is the right side. Just going to check that's the right side. Yeah, so I've got right sides up there. Then this one goes down, and that's going to match on there. Okay, and I'm going to pin along there, and I'm going to pin the other one there. Okay, so I'm sewing the first shoulder seam here. I'm going to use 1.5 cm seam allowance, it's normal. I'm going to do a little bit forwards, a little bit backwards, and then I'm going to go forwards to the end. Keeping my eye the whole time on this edge of the fabric and the space there. There's a little line there that I know is 1.5 centimetres. When you get to the end, a little bit backwards, forwards, finish off. Okay, and I'm going to do that on my other shoulder seam, which will be under here somewhere. Where is it? Here it is. Other shoulder seam, and then down the 2 sides all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so now we have a garment. This is our gown. This is the back where it's open and the front where it isn't. We've done the shoulder seams and we've done the 2 side seams. Now what I'm going to do, because I have an overlocker, I'm going to overlock around the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to go on the seams, but I'm also going to go around all these raw edges because we're just going to bind the edge with bias binding in a minute. If you don't have an overlocker, you can just do your zigzag half on, half off the fabric for this and zigzag, and it will wrap the edge for you. Okay, this is the sleeve. I've overlocked around the edges, you can see. What I need to do now is just turn it under. If you're doing this without an overlocker, you can turn it under twice. In fact, I'd probably like to do that anyway, like turn it under again like that, so it's neater. But for speed, I'm going to turn it under once, give it an iron. Cut off my dangly threads, they're no good, are they? Okay, so I'm going to do that same with the other sleeve, and then round the outside. I'll show you. This is the front of the garment. This is the neckline here. Okay, now I'm going to bias bind that neckline in a minute to make the ties. So I'm just going to turn this bit. That's the wrong way up because that's the right side. Turn it so it's the wrong sides. And then just turn it over. Again, it's probably about 1.5 centimeters. I'm not really sure. I'm just doing it by eye. And fold it like that all the way around, all the way down the front seam. Okay, this is the bottom. Here, I'm just going to show you how to do this bit. So imagine we've ironed that bit all the way along. Okay, and then I'm literally just going to turn this up, same like that. Now you can put pins in if you want to. This is cotton, so it will stay where I've ironed it, just enough for me to get it to the machine. And then I'm going to just machine that down like that, so it's got a nice turnover from this side. And I'm going to do that all the way around apart from the neck. Okay, so I need to stitch my sleeve cuff down, so I need to take this bit of my machine off and expose the arm of my machine so the fabric can go underneath and on top at the same time. Line it up. I'm going to line up my overlocking with the inside of this foot. Okay, forwards a bit. What's it doing? Backwards a bit. That was weird. Machine decided not to play ball. Okay, and then I'm just going to stitch all the way around. Don't worry if your turn up is a little smaller in some places than others. This is not going to be a perfect garment. They need something quick. Okay, so keep going around. Go a bit slow when there's more fabric. And then back to where you started, bit of back stitch, forward, finish. Okay, that's the sleeve. And then I'm going to do that the same on all my edges. So this is one, this is the side I didn't iron just now. It's going to be turned under like that and stitched along there, not the neck, because that's going to be bias binded. Okay, so now the garment's nearly finished, but we need to do the ties, tying up, and the neckline. This is the neckline all the way from here to here. Okay, this is the bit that I haven't turned under and stitched. I'm going to use bias binding. This is the only bias binding I have, which doesn't really go. Maybe it does, I'm not sure. What you need is about 30 centimeters hanging off the end of your neckline, and then I'm literally just going to fold it over. So I'm just folding the piece of fabric inside there and put a pin in. Okay, so I'm just literally folding this over and putting a pin in. Now, when I come to sew this on the machine, I will take the pins out because stopping and starting on bias binding is quite difficult. And what I want to do first of all, as you can see it started to be attached to the neckline there, I'm going to fold this in half. I'm going to stitch down that bit first to make that the tie, and then I'm going to continue stitching all the way around the neckline and out the other side another 30 centimeters. Right, so what I want to do is I want to stitch down this bias binding to fold this in half and stitch it closed. Now, your machine might not like it, okay, because what will happen is sometimes the bias binding will be narrow enough to go in between your two rows of teeth here. So what you need to do is do it one side or the other to make sure the teeth pull it along. I'm going to go this side because this is my open edge and the teeth are here. So I'm going to try and put it there. I'm also going to extend it a bit through the back so that I'm not trying to stitch right on the end of it, and I will go back to the start to join that bit. So I'm just going to do a bit of forward stitch. Oops, not even on the bias binding by the looks of it. move it over a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of forward stitch, and then I'm going to go back, hopefully to the beginning of the bias binding, and then let it go forwards. Now, sometimes it'll chew up your bias binding in there because, like I said, it's too near the middle of here. Just stop, undo your machine, and just move it over a bit. And then as soon as you can hold this back bit, it's easier to just gently guide it through from both sides, front and back, just to make sure it's coming through. Okay. Right, so now we've done the necktie here. I'm going to do a tie around the waist here. Now it's about 45 centimetres from the top. On one of the pieces, I'm going to stitch it to the edge here. I'm going to turn under the bias binding a little bit like that. I'm going to pin it on. And then I'm going to sew round like that in a square and diagonally. And then when I get to the edge, I'm going to fold this over and I'm going to again sew those together like that. On this side, I want to sew it so it folds over a little bit. So I'm going to sew it more like here. Oops, wrong way around. So I'm going to fold it under as normal. Just leave it in a little bit. And I'm going to sew it like that in a square round like that, and then I'm going to fold this, come across so this one can overlap with that one. Okay, I'm going to go and do that. Okay, so I'm going to sew this bit of bias binding onto the edge here. I've turned the end under. I'm literally going to sew round in a square to attach it. Probably a rectangle, really. Okay, so I'm back to where I started. Now I'm going to do a diagonal line down into the middle of that bit there. Swizzle it all the way around again. Okay, so I'm going to go aim for here. Okay, now I need to lift my presser foot up, and I'm going to fold this bias binding in half. Now it'll make a funny sort of a triangle bit up here. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then I'm going to just stitch this down. Backward stitch at the end, secure it. Now I may not have mentioned it before, but these pieces that I'm sewing on here for the middle waist ties are about 30 centimetres long. I'm now going to sew the other one on exactly the same. Okay, with this second tie, because it needs to finish before the edge, okay, I need to actually finish my stitching here. So go back and forwards in the square, take it out, and then fold this fabric underneath while I sew my tie shut. Okay, because otherwise you're just going to sew it into the fabric. So forwards a bit, backwards a bit, and then towards the end of the tie, and then finish. Okay, let's get it on the mannequin. Okay, your gown's finished. This is the front, just plain at the front, and at the back, whoop, steady lady, it's open, so it's got ties at the back, so it'll fit anybody. This is a sort of small medium. I am going to make a larger one because there are some much wider men that work at this place, so I'm going to make some wider ones. But that's it done. Go and make a gown.